Melyssa Ford is recently going viral
Oh
for
God.
her comments. And so we're going to ask a couple questions, not long questions, but we're going to get into a couple questions. Let me know what y'all thoughts are. This is leading up to a bigger conversation, but I'm going to just leave it there. And she basically went on to talk about men being misogynistic, or they're not necessarily standing with women. And so I'm gonna ask a general question, and then I'm gonna deep dive a little bit further into my next question. But in a general sense, are women justified at being upset at the loud voices that's coming from the podcast bros? I'm not even. Should I call on somebody, or anybody want to just jump in? I'll call on somebody. I'm gonna go with Kim. Kim and not a Gemini likes to sit back, contemplate, ponder, listen, and observe. And so
Pontificate.
I'm gonna call on Kim. Kimmy, are women justified in being upset at the louder voices of the podcast bros, and that she is basically assessing that they don't necessarily stand with women? They're creating an environment that's not conducive for women.
I think that you find what you seek. And if that's what's in your algorithm, that's because that's what you put there. So they're only loud because you're listening. So, no, I don't think you should be upset with them. Find the people who pander to the women and go with that. You chose this, you chose to listen to that. So, deal.
I'm afraid to go to Q. Let me go with Q. Q
Why are you afraid?
Well, we'll see how it plays out. Uh, is Melyssa Ford justified at being upset at the loud voices that don't stand with women that's often coming from the podcast bros?
I think so, because I don't think the message is for all the bros, and all the bros be taking the message. Kind of like the whole. Let's take Kevin Samuels. For the most part, he was talking about the head niggas in charge, and then you got all these broke niggas. Thought you can get with the head niggas, fucking and get. And he like, I wasn't even talking to y'all. Y'all broke. Like I think men probably like they have a like hard time like differentiating like if this message is for us, because it ain't for everybody.
Okay.
So I
Let me
kind
play
of
a little bit.
I get it. And then when you got talking points from somebody else and you don't have your own thoughts, and you just talking, then there's that too.
Let me play a little bit more before I go to the next person. So let's stop there. Um, because a little bit more of the context where she was talking about the whole narrative where women say, if I'm in the woods and a man that I don't know approached me in a bear, I'm choosing a bear. And then Charlamagne asked her, has she had mostly positive relationships with men? I'm gonna ask the question again, but I'm gonna pose it to Carrie, then I'm gonna go to Lex. Are women justified at being upset at the voices that's being, you know, used to amplify men's thoughts or the podcast bros' thoughts? Are women justified in being upset at the current state of things?
Um, it's understandable. I don't know if it's justified, only because I think the same is happening with women. I think there's a minority of women who are being the loudest that are like anti-men. So I feel like it's happening on both sides. So being upset, I don't know. I don't know if they're justified for being upset. It's frustrating, but
yeah. Why is it frustrating?
Because for those women who are not the loud minority, who are like anti-men, it can sometimes be, and I mean frustrating, like kind of disheartening, because sometimes hearing men in the way that I'm guessing she's describing, it feels like they just don't like us. And who wants to feel like men don't like women? That just feels wrong. So that
It
is
feels
just
like
like,
men don't like y'all right now.
yeah, sometimes when you listen to the conversation, it sounds like that.
Okay.
I heard there a lot, like on some of these other panels, not so much over here, but like when there's women and men, like women are always say, "Do y'all even like us?" That's what they say, and I get it.
And I get that if you're listening to people on the internet, but I don't think in real life anybody's walking around saying, well, I don't think men like women. I mean, they're showing you every day that they do. So again, it's a matter of seeking ye shall find. You sought this stuff out. Like you don't have to hear this. And for her to say that she hasn't had good relationships with men, I mean, we just not gonna talk about the fact that she was in the industry and a video vixen. I mean, I think that that probably had a lot to do with the way that the men related to her. So you can't discount that and make it seem like you're just this regular, average, everyday girl off the street. I don't think that her experiences were the same as everybody else's.
So you think that her past should also play a role in how men see her?
I didn't say it should play a role, but I think we would be remiss to think that it wouldn't. I mean, you earn a reputation regardless of whether or not it's true, just based on what you've done. And again, just we know how men judge women, and you put yourself out there to be judged that way, and then you're surprised at the results and surprised that these men treated you that way. I don't see her saying, oh, I also experienced, these elaborate dates or these amazing gifts. She's only talking about one side of what her experience was, and I don't think that's fair.
Mm. Lex, are women justified in being upset at the amplified voices of men as voicing their concerns with relationships today? The podcast bros.
I don't think so. And I say that because I think it's self-defeating for women to have that mindset. I think that it shows an uncomfortable truth, these podcasts about women that they don't want to see. And it makes them have to question or rewire everything that they were taught of how to show up in men. So men are not being blinded by the modern dating culture of things being transactional and the way women are pretty much behaving. I mean, not just that, I'm just throwing out random things, but I think that this was created and cultivated based on um, one man snapping out of what you call quote unquote matrix, the red pill, and like looking like, man, something's wrong. And people are like, and men, they're like, yeah. But I also agree with what Clinton said. Like, people like Kevin Samuels would even talking to all of y'all. But we can't ignore the fact that they don't have a right to get mad when they have podcasts all the time with women telling them how to get the coins and finesse men and it throws everything off instead of somebody just having some type of self-mastery or showing up for themselves and work on self. Y'all want to get mad at other people for revealing y'all tactics. Stop it.
All right, I'm with that. Um, I'm gonna come in semi last. Molly, do you think that Melyssa Ford and women are justified at being upset at the amplified voices of these guys out here in these streets?
think because I think because it's Melissa Ford, I don't really take it as seriously coming from her because I don't believe she has any children. Is she married?
I don't think no, neither one.
So yeah, right. So women with those type of lifestyles, I don't really what are you listening to it for? Are you trying, I don't understand, is she trying to take anything from it to maybe find a relationship or something like that? If you're not, why do you care? And if you only care because it's affecting your self-esteem, why is your self-esteem wrapped up in what some men are saying online on a podcast? So I guess I think I just have an issue with her talking about this because it's really not that serious. If you have an issue with what they're saying, don't listen to it. Just live in your echo chamber of women or pandering men who will sit there and say what women want to hear all day. Why is it hurting your feelings? I don't know. I guess I don't understand that. And if you're not the target, what you care for? That's, I don't know.
Slimmy,
I don't know why women care.
Slim Dog Millionaire. Um, is Melissa Ford justified in being a little bit upset at the podcast bros?
I don't give a fuck about Melyssa Ford, but I will do this. News flash for those that didn't understand. Kevin Samuels talked to men first. So he was talking to all men with his content at first. Now, when he started referencing a high value man, that's a different conversation. But he was holding men accountable. As far as this bimbo goes, Melyssa Ford she a sad case. She is really a sad case. She's a feminist who doesn't want to own up to having one of the greatest runs at a whole phase in life, or what we can assume was a whole phase. Um, she doesn't want to own up to that, and that's why she was treated by men a certain way. She probably got some good shit from it. I mean, she ended up being a successful hoe. That's another one who we can add to that list with uh Kim Kardashian and Amber Rose. She's a successful hoe. Like, she manages to stay relevant just because she was a hoe. Like, let's be real. She should not be talking. She got fired from another podcast. Like, why are we interviewing Melyssa Ford? Why are we still talking to her? She's literally irrelevant. Joe Budden was out of his mind for making this woman relevant again, but he did it. Now she wants to fire back at men some way, somehow. She's still bitter. She's just a bitter woman. She's mad at men because she didn't get chose. She was nice looking and she doesn't understand why. She's mad at herself because she doesn't understand why she's so beautiful, supposedly, and she doesn't have anybody except somebody who just want to smash. At the end of the day, dudes don't value her for her personality or her thoughts. They don't. Or she would be wed. She would be somebody's wife.
Do you think that she's too choosy, or do you think that dudes are too smart to get caught up? I'm too swift up on my toes to get caught up with you hoes. Like
Yeah,
Snoop said.
yeah, yeah. Ain't nobody about to get caught up with Melyssa Ford. Unless he just like from another world, another country. He don't know who she is. He blinded by, what he sees, the exterior. Maybe maybe in that way, maybe she might get wifed up. I don't see how. But I think it's real crazy because the whole thing, let's eliminate Melyssa Ford being upset about this, and let's just go to the average woman being upset about people on podcasts, men on podcasts voicing their opinion about women. I think it's sad that I know for a fact in the 90s that women started man bashing. This was a real thing in the 90s. It started in the 90s where women would get together and they would be talking shit about men. This is how they felt. I've never seen guys do that. Um, I don't want to hang around guys that do that. Like, if all we gonna do is talk negative about women at a powwow or a brunch, I think that's kind of weird. But women do that. This is a thing for women. So now we fast forward years later, decades later, men are able to voice their opinion about women And it's a problem. All on Sally Jesse Raphael, Ricky Lake. I don't know about Oprah, but all those talk shows that women had, and it was okay to talk crazy about men. This was a thing for talk shows. This was a thing, a real thing. And it was okay. It wasn't, you didn't see that kind of rhetoric on Geraldo. You didn't see that kind of rhetoric on men's talk shows. I can't think of the dude, Phil Donahue. You didn't see that kind of rhetoric on those shows. But now we fast forward, and when men have a voice, it's problematic. Now it's toxic masculinity and all these weird titles and labels. Was it toxic then when women was doing it? No, it was okay. It was publicized. And I think now maybe women should take heed and listen to what men are saying. And that way you can have better discernment on the type of guys you deal with. Because then you can discern who are the toxic men, who are the men that you should be with, and the ones you should stay far away from. Maybe that will help you on your journey.